folks, welcome to BOP. I'm Les Trevoni.
And I'm Quinn Lawrence.
And today we are honored with the presence of Dr. McNeill's showing us some martial arts, and Tony Hiler, who's going to play some piano with Quinn, who's going to be on his saxophone. Now, first thing we're going to do today is we're going to do a short little piece about self-defense against one of the more common attacks. You know, there's a lot of different self-defense techniques for some pretty exotic attacks. Day to day, the most likely thing most people are going to have happen to them is somebody throws a punch at them. So today we're going to concentrate on what a few techniques are to deal with various kinds of punches. First thing we're going to do, Quinn's going to come over here, we're going to start with a street punch. By which I mean, I remember when I was a kid, you'd have people coming from their heels. Just a big old punch. Now, the first thing you can do with something like that, wide like that, and slow, is just to step into it. So he comes around and I just step in like that. Now what this does is opens him up. So now we've got all kinds of options. So strike solar plexus, four-finger strike to the throat if you feel particularly threatened. Lifting, elbow strike, strike, strike. And you can finish any of these off with just a little sweep. And then go home. While he's picking up the pieces, you leave. So that's one technique. Now, not everybody's that dumb. Some people actually know how to throw a punch. So somebody else will throw a straight punch right at my nose. And so we want to get out of the way of that. The first thing you do is get out of the way. Now, kicking the leg, when you come down, right across the jaw. And then use that to sweep. And again, go home. Time to leave town. Okay, now Quinn gets a chance to get even.
So this next one is defense against a jab. So with every attack, there's an opening. That's when the opponent's open. So he's open to throwing the jab. So this leaves a nice little target right here. So he throws a jab, back, can throw my elbow right into his floating ribs, and then throw a nice little sweep to the throat. Now the next one, you can do a disappearing act, because with the punches to the head, you don't have to be there. So I can just let gravity take over, roll my hips into the groin area, and in theory, they'll double over, and you can do a nice little next kick to the head.
So that's a few ways to deal with the general things you come across. Well, you also have some guys who, what if they throw more than one punch? They throw a couple, punches in bunches. Well, there's a couple ways to deal with that. So you can just come in, block them, and work off of the block. You know, again, bang, bang, come in like that. Or, another way, I'll throw them this time, and
you can strike to the temple here, and block at the same time. And then go under, strike to the back of the head.
Now last, we're going to show you something we call fundamentals. What they are is simply twists, the way we twist the body, twist the wrist to make it go somewhere. And then we apply it to a given technique. So now we have this fundamental where all we're doing is stepping in, twisting the wrist so that he has two choices. He can jump or he can get his wrist broken. Now how we apply that, if he throws a high, let's move back a little. If he throws a high punch, again, block, come around, and like that. Then take his wallet and go home. Okay. And
the next fundamental that we do is we go to a different side. So we take this and we make sure that this is nice and level, and we pull up, and you see your opponent reacts to it, and we can really do some damage there to the arm. Now off the punch, here, you take the punch and do that. And if you choose to, you can also do a takedown from here. And a nice finishing move.
right. So that just sort of scratches the surface, but that's a few of the things that we can do, you know, against the punch. Again, It's the most common attack. It's a good idea to have a few tricks in your arsenal. There are more, and we'll be dealing with them from time to time. Hi, we're back, and today we're honored to have as our guest Dr. Kamei McNeil of McNeill's Bujutsu Goshinjutsu.
Dr. Kamei McNeil has over 40 years of martial arts experience. His rank is Shihan Kudan Ultimo Bushi Grandmaster, 9th degree black belt, and founder of the American Goshinjutsu system, AG Ryu. Dr. Kamei is a graduate of the Rochester Institute of Technology's School of Business and has a doctorate in philosophy from the University of Asian Martial Arts Studies. He is also a 2004 inductee in the USA Martial Arts Hall of Fame. Dr. Kamei is a 10-time martial arts champion. This includes a world championship in combat fighting in 1996. Combat fighting is now known today as mixed martial arts fighting, MMA.
Dr. Kamei?
Yes, sir.
Thank you for coming. And, well, I'd like to start with the obvious. The first thing I noticed when I saw your group, which was very tight in demonstrations, was the hat, the cover. I've been in martial arts 28 years, and I don't think I've ever seen anyone wearing that cover. I'm sure there's a story behind it. Could you tell us?
Oh, my pleasure. The concept behind our campaign cover is the symbolism. It represents discipline. If you sit back and you look, you'll notice that our state police agencies, all of their state troopers wear campaign covers. And also for the military, the sergeants that do the training for the basic recruits, all of those instructors wear campaign covers. So it's always been a form that shows either that you're going to be taught discipline or it's a form of authority. I wanted something like that to be a reflection upon my instructors. I'm a United States Marine and I'm very proud of it. And I wanted my school to have that particular reflection. So anybody from assistant instructor above will wear a campaign cover.
So anybody walking to your school knows right away who the instructors are?
Yes, sir.
I see. Now, you teach a lot of different areas, I noticed, from looking at your website, but you seem to have an emphasis on women's self-defense. Can you tell us a little more about that?
Well, the reason for that is because of our emphasis on pressure point. Manipulation through the application of pressure point, I think, is a very, very important self-defense concept. So the idea is you don't have to have a large individual attacking somebody or defending against somebody for the concept to work. When you're talking about pressure points, you're talking about small areas across the body, that is nerves, tendons, and soft tissue areas. Once you learn where those are, it doesn't matter how large the assailant is, you're going to be able to get control of the individual, and then from there you can do a proper self-defense technique to defend yourself.
I see. That's something that's very useful because, well, men are just generally bigger and heavier, so it comes in handy to have something in your pocket that doesn't rely on size and strength alone.
Yes, sir.
Now, I believe you said something about law enforcement, so you're also associated with law enforcement, isn't that correct?
Yes, it kind of works with the same concept. The idea is we utilize a lot of pressure points to be able to get releases. So therefore, when you have an officer that's trying to handle an assailant and it's a larger assailant, by pressing into those areas, it becomes an involuntary body action. From that release, it's a lot easier to control that assailant. Also, when you're talking about something such as weapons retention, when an individual is trying to take a weapon from the officer, the pressure point can prevent that individual from retrieving that weapon.
Sounds useful because don't necessarily call the police to tell them there's a party going on. It's usually something a little more dark, so that's handy. Now, I understand that this is a family business and that you have your children are involved. Would you like to tell us a little more about that?
Yes, I was actually very blessed with that. Within my business, I have actually my 3 children. My oldest son, Vincenzo McNeil, is not here today. And I have my other 2 children, which is Senpai Jermaine, he's my second hand here, and then my daughter over here, Sensei Mercedes. From the time that they were little and they were walking through the hallways in the house, I would hold on to them and try to do a technique. When I was trying to be able to see how these pressure points was working, they tend to have been my examples a lot of times. See, one thing that wasn't mentioned at first was I'm also the founder of the American Goshinjutsu system. That is our own family system. And the idea is those concepts need to have been proven. So being able to utilize it with the children and then later on with students and then in law enforcement was able to show that these concepts actually do work.
I see. So you were able to practice 24/7 because
Yes.
you had the family around.
And then I was blessed enough that they I guess became used to it and then became instructors.
Well, they had to get even. Speaking of which, growing up, did Dad give you a lot of push-ups if you, I mean, I'm guessing you got pretty strong pretty early, right?
Yeah, definitely strong, but more importantly, it just gave us a lot of structure. Being able to adjust to not just situations at home, but outside of home, growing up in any neighborhood around the United States, so it doesn't matter what the environment is, being able to adjust to, whether it was in high school, et cetera, going forward. So kept me, definitely on a good head on my shoulders.
I think that's really important. I knew a kid years ago who was starting to take martial arts, and he was there because in high school he was just thrown all over the place. And he was the kind of guy that walked in a way that told you that. He was just tense or nervous. So I imagine just even being relaxed and comfortable handle a lot of situations by itself.
Correct.
That's something. Now, Mercedes, I understand that you're the excuse me, the lady, forgive me, that's just my old talking. You are the lady who brings home the trophies. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
I am. I actually have 8 martial arts titles, and most of them are mixed martial artists. Mixed martial arts championships, which means I actually go up against males and females of various rankings. And I've been doing martial arts since I was 10, and I got my first title when I was 10, and I have 2 international titles as well.
What took you so long?
You know, it was late to bloom. 10 came soon enough, though.
I see. Well, this sounds pretty great. Family working together, studying together, and you've got these 2 wonderful children standing here by you. That's really a testament. Now, would you like to show us some of what you do?
Oh, it would be a pleasure.
Okay.
Good afternoon, everybody. What I'd like to be able to do with Senpai is be able to show you some of these concepts of pressure points. You see, you'll be able to see what a technique is when a person goes to the ground and so forth, but you don't see how they get there. It's important to understand that an individual is not going to just go because you want them to go. You have to put them in that position to go, and that's where pressure points come in. So, for example, when we're talking about the hand right there, you start at the very bottom. You got soft tissue areas. When you press into those soft tissue areas, it gives what's known as an involuntary body action. All of my students are taught from the beginning that when that happens, you tap. It's important to let the individual know that your technique is working. So it's tapping your hand, tapping your feet. If I was up against him, I tap his body. Just important to let that person know, and then that person will immediately stop. What's great about these concepts is they work all across the body. If you go up to the first joint, once again, it happens again. Going across the body, rub your finger. Every lump that you feel, that is a vein. Behind every vein is a nerve. As you start to go up the body, you have your wrist in here. You got flexors in there. If you press up and down into a flexor, it brings that individual up and close to you. Now, as you start to go down the body this way here, you have areas that you're able to work across here. But we live in Rochester. Think about that for a second. You're more than likely going to have something that's blocking you from getting to that nerve. Just the same way as there's gis in place, there's going to be coats in place. That's when the concept comes in of using the end of a nail. The pressure point used at the end of a nail replaces the flat part of the finger. I am able to get through this clothing, and I'm able to still get to that nerve, which is very important. As I go under the arm, the same concept comes into place. What you want to be able to think about is that the lower half of your body is the same as the top. What I mean by that is when you think about fingers, think about toes, think about a hand, think about a foot, think about an arm, excuse me, think about a leg. So anything that can be done upstairs can be done downstairs. Now, where that concept becomes important is if I'm down to the ground and Senpai is holding me and he's getting ready to punch me. Okay, as I go to reach up to be able to do something, I'm telegraphing. I let him know I'm coming. So the same concept is here, folks, in the arm. It's the same concept here at the leg. So what you do is you make the leg collapse, bring the individual down, rear back, and then you lock. That's an important concept. Always remember, you never do a waza or a technique without finishing off with some type of locking technique. So now we've given you a basic idea of how these pressure points work. Now we're going to give you a concept of how to put them into place. This is what's known as blind training. Now, unlike you see on television in the movies, no one's throwing spears, no one's even actually throwing punches. But you can be grabbed on any part of your body, and as long as you understand these concepts, you're going to be able to free yourself and defend yourself. Sensei? Okay, what I'm going to do, folks, is I'm actually going to explain the technique to you, and then I'm going to redo the whole technique over at normal speed. So the first thing is he's grabbed onto me. I go into what's known as jigger tie. That brings my body weight down, makes it harder for him to be able to manipulate me back and forwards. Then I go for the pressure point. Find the vein, press in and under. I'm making him release at this point. At this point in time of doing this here, I reach over. This is the weak part of the hand as you start to turn. So at this point in time, all I have to do is follow through with that, take a step to the left, and it will create a throw. So we're going to follow this whole concept straight through. Senpai grabs, jigger tie, pressure point. Now, the minute that I take him down to the ground, it's real important. I'm going to step back. I'm pushing this arm down so elbow is stabilized against the ground. And then I'm going to lock him. Remember, you always finish with a lock. Second technique will be something we do from the rear. Same concept, folks. I can feel his hands. If I can feel his hands, I can do something. I'm going to do a pressure point to both of the hands to get him to release. I'm going to pick one, control it, turn it into a locking technique. I could pick him down to the ground and finish, but in this particular move, we're going to reverse it, throwing him back in the opposite direction, and then from there, once again, we'll finish with a lock. So following this concept all the way through, senpai grabs, pressure point, lock. Once he goes down, I'm going to step down again. I'm going to curl this wrist up, stabilizing it against my body to finish the locking technique. Okay, you can get the blind. Okay, folks, at this time, I would like to have Sensei Mercedes come up. I would like to be able to see that this is not a matter of size or strength. It's a matter of technique. If you put the technique in place, you can control the individual. Sensei?
Yes, sir.
Sensei and Senpai are going to do two wazas. And she will do the same concept. She will explain as she goes.
Side tissue. First defense is going to be from a grab. Senpai grabs. Jigger tie. I'm smaller than someone like Dr. Kamei. I want to double my body weight, bringing my body weight down. Jigger tie. Deep knee bend. Just as Dr. Kamei mentioned before, I'm going to stabilize, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to break down this wrist, and I want to hold on to him. Projection, finger straight up into the air, elbow against the weak part of the wrist, breaking down. Take my back leg, and I step in. Now I want to come close and deep to Senpai. I want him nice and tight, because when I go for my throw, I need to have as much control as possible. Back of my hand is grabbing the back of his belt for support. This front leg is shooting in, keeping my body tight. Now, the one thing to remember is I'm going to do what's known as O-Goshi. Anytime you hear O in our system, means major. I'm doing a major hip throw. So my hip is going to shoot over. It is important to remember your weight is on the hip, not your back. My knees are bent. I'm holding on for support. All I'm doing at this point in time is lifting my feet and rotating. Senpai goes down. As Dr. May mentioned before, I'm going to put my body weight. I'm going to pressure point to the back of the hand, bring his elbow to the back of my thigh, and lock. The next technique I'm going to do is going to be a defense from a punch. So, jigger tie, take your stance, block, fingers open, fully extend out to penetrate the block. I'm going to come in, grab. Once again, keep Senpai close. This back leg is going to shoot in as close as possible. Arm coming in, projection. What I'm going to go for now is a shoulder throw. Once again, keeping my body tight, bending my knees. As I come in, fingers open, project, grab, bend, throw. This time, I'm going to go for an arm bar. Leg shoots in, hook to the back of the neck. I'm going to drop all my body weight back. Make sure the elbow is to the weak part of the leg, projecting back.
Thank you very much. That was a very enlightening demonstration.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for showing us
Thank you so much.
your talent. And I saved you for last because thank you for being the guy who is taking all this in good humor and I'm always wondering, if Dad was mad, did he hold on a little bit longer from time to time? But this was, I really appreciate you guys coming and showing us not only how beautiful your art is, but once again, we're trying to explore the different areas of martial arts, and we do see similarities. You do things a little different, but we do a lot of techniques that would be interchangeable. And I guess that comes, there's only so many pressure points, there's only so many ways the body bends. And so you sort of end up having, if not the same, you end up having similar techniques. Once again, thank you very much, sir. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hi, welcome back to Bop. And this week, we're going to feature a little different musician. He's going to be our in-house guy, Quinn Lawrence. Quinn plays more instruments than I have fingers. What is it? Saxophone, piano, bass, trumpet. Did I leave anything out?
No.
Okay, no bagpipes, right?
No bagpipes.
No bagpipes. All right. So Quinn, you're a Rochester native. So when did you start playing music here? When did you discover that you wanted to express yourself that way? That was your method of expressing your feelings?
I feel like music has always been something that was a part of me. My father was a musician, and he always played. He always had his records going in the house and everything, and I always felt connected to the sounds. I had a little toy keyboard I always played on. So it might be kind of strange, but I don't think there was a moment where I felt like oh, I want to play music. I just think it was something that was just always there. But in 5th grade, every year at my elementary school, the band teacher, at the time it was Ann Farino, she would have a whole bunch of instruments laid out, demonstrate them to the kids at the time. And I believe in 4th grade I kind of chickened out on it, but in 5th grade I decided I wanted to do it. I took a rental sheet home to my mother, and she was like, "So what instrument do you want to play?" I had to pick one, and I said, "I don't know. There's 7 different instruments on there. Like I don't know what to pick." And then she says, "Well, Louis Armstrong was famous for playing the trumpet. You want to play the trumpet?" And I just said, "Sure." So the rest is history.
What would you have done if she said the piccolo or something?
I don't know.
Stuck with that.
I don't know.
There are not many jazz piccolo players, are there?
I'm sure there's some out there.
There must be someone somewhere. Okay, so basically you were just a musician in transition and becoming. So you, grammar school, high school, college, you went to...
I went to Eastman School of Music for my undergrad.
School of Music.
Yep.
And I understand that after that, you went to China.
Yes, that was after my graduate studies.
After graduate, where did you do graduate studies?
It's called University of Cincinnati College Conservatory of Music.
Yeah. And you had to go all the way to China to find a gig? That's tough.
Well, it was kind of one of those things that was a part of a dream of mine. I noticed even all throughout high school. I went to School of the Arts for high school. There'd be well-known jazz musicians coming in, and that's what they did. They traveled around the world and played, and that was part of what I really would like to do, is to see the world and play music.
That's great.
So China was one of those rare opportunities for me, and I lived out there for 3 months playing at a jazz club.
How'd you like it?
Oh, I loved it. It was an amazing experience. China's a totally different. The way of life over there is totally different than it is here, and everything was fast-paced. I was in Shanghai for about 3 months, and I equated that to like a Chinese New York City, basically.
Really?
Tons of people. The life there is very fast-paced. Everything's right at your fingertips. So,
How'd they treat you? How'd you enjoy the culture? Tell us what was like. What was your experience with the Chinese?
They really didn't talk to me unless they wanted to sell me something.
Okay. Gee, not much change. So a nation of insurance salesmen. Okay.
Yeah. It's just like, well, culturally, for example, here, if we say we don't have a problem saying hello to a stranger, just to say hello, just to greet somebody. That's not necessarily the case there. We might think that that's rude, but that's just how they, that's just how they operate there. And and when they do say hello and have a big smile on their face, yeah, that means
They want something.
They want something.
They want something.
And it, in a sense, is kind of understandable because when they see a foreigner, like myself at the time, I had locks down to my shoulders.
Dreadlocks, okay.
Yeah, and they felt felt the need to talk to me, and like, hey, he's a foreigner, so he must have money, and so.
American with big bucks, right?
Right.
Okay.
Actually, one of them asked me to cut off one of my locks to give it to them. 'Cause, yeah, they would question that hairline. It was like, is that real? They asked me if it was real, and one of them wanted me to cut off a piece for them. And yeah, it was a good time.
So did you?
Though. No. No.
Might have been doing magic, you don't know. So you came back to Rochester, and
Yep.
what are you doing these days?
Well, I'm still playing. I also teach private music lessons, and I also work with drug-addicted teenagers.
That's good work.
Yes, and of course study the martial arts.
And martial arts, that's an interesting, well, that's the premise of our show, martial arts and music. And you represent both worlds. As an artist, I'm on the martial arts side. When it comes to the music side, I'm more the audience. I enjoy hearing good jazz. And are you going to play a little something for us? What are you going to play?
Yes, I'm going to play a song called Springtime Came in November.
I remember that song, and it's Spring Came in November.
Spring Came in November.
You see, folks, little secret here. I asked Quinn to play this. It was written back in the 50s by a bebop drummer named Lou Treboni, who actually I call Dad. And Quinn is going to play it for us. And I do appreciate that. He wrote quite a few songs in the 50s. He played with a lot of good people, learned a lot about music as a drummer, thereby giving lie to the joke that, what do you call a guy who likes to hang out with musicians? A drummer. I always figure tell that to Philly Joe Jones. But thank you very much, Quinn, and looking forward to hearing it.
Yes. All right.
Okay, we'll be right back. Hi. For our musical segment today on Bop, we have Rochester jazz musician Tony Hiler, and he's going to start us off with one of his own compositions, Easy Man, and he's going to be accompanied by our very own Quinn Lawrence. Sit back and enjoy. Gentlemen, thank you very much. I think you've improved my listening skills a great deal today, and I appreciate that. Audience, I guess I'll start with a few of the obvious ones. I mean, you're a marvelous musician. How old were you when you decided that this was what you wanted to do, or when you felt in your heart that music was the way you wanted to express yourself in life?
Oh man, I'd say probably 7 or 8. I had some relatives that were musicians. My uncle was a music teacher in Buffalo, and he kind of maybe encouraged my mom to get me started in the music program. And I had another cousin that was a gospel pianist. I started out playing clarinet and piano for a long time, and switched over to the drums in like high school, which is my primary instrument, by the way.
Your drums?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yep.
All right, that's an interesting combination, drums and piano.
Yeah.
I was thinking about one thing, watching you two play, and I gotta ask this. What do you think when you're going into the improvisation? I mean, this is probably a layman's question. I don't know if you guys even think about this, but I'm sitting there and I kind of know the song, and then you get to a certain part and you just go somewhere. Do you think about where you're going, or do you just walk along the road and see what you see?
Yeah, it was not. I don't think it's so much thinking. I think it's more of a what you hear and trying to respond to it. At least that's my approach.
So you playing off each other?
Yeah, I try to hit those notes, with my limited technique. Like I said,
that's terrible how you can only use 10 fingers.
Yeah.
Actually, going along with that, I understand you teach as well.
Yeah, I do. I teach drum lessons, and I have a piano student.
A piano student?
No, a piano student.
A piano student, okay.
Yeah. And out in Fairport, can I say the place?
Sure.
McNeill's Music Studio in Fairport, 31 Church Street. Sign up. Yeah.
So speaking of sign up, what do you tell your children? Is that a fair term, the youngsters?
Yeah, I have 2 children, a daughter, 19, soon to be 20, and a 17-year-old son.
17-year-old son. You mentioned before your son has special needs.
Yeah, he has a condition called cerebral palsy, which limits his mobility and some of his motor skills and things like that. And, he's 17 now, and so I feel pretty well adjusted.
Well,
Yeah.
Had a little practice with that.
Yeah.
What do you tell your students is the most important thing in learning how to play music and learning how to play jazz? What do you feel like they need to really know to get there?
For the students that want to learn how to play jazz, I tell them that they have to listen to the music and become familiar with it. We kind of go over different types of songs, blues, bebops, ballads, and bossa novas, or various Latin things, and we talk about form. There's some tunes like on Green Dolphin Street that kind of switches rhythms in the songs, and we kind of have little practices for setting up the different grooves that go on within that song, and we just we work on, as a jazz drummer, well, I guess any instrument, we have to work on technique to be able to execute the styles, because most of the jazz musicians are classically trained, and they have to have a certain level of proficiency in the instrument before they can really express themselves. At least I find my favorite musicians are
classically trained. I didn't know. I mean, I know, of course, Wynton Marsalis. We know he was classically trained, but I thought back in the day it was, guys practiced a lot.
Yeah.
They talked about Charlie Parker being a natural musician. My dad knew him, and he said Charlie Parker practiced 8 hours a day.
I think I heard 12.
Wow.
I heard 12 too.
The point is, that's what he did, from morning till night. So I guess it sort of comes back to the theme of the show. You got to know your basics. You got to know your basics, and then once you know them, you can go anywhere with them.
Yeah. Gives you more freedom.
That's a funny thing. I think a lot of people would think it constrains you, but Not really. It gives you a lot more to work with. Right?
Well, I have a little Charlie Parker story. I had a chance to play with a bass player in Buffalo named Sabu Adiola, who gave me an opportunity to play with a piano player named Al Tenney. And Sabu pointed out in Charlie Parker's autobiography that he was talking about this guy that was like raising the 5 and sharpening the 9, and there was this guy, Al Tenney. He kind of like introduced Charlie Parker to bebop, and Charlie Parker made it what it is. You know, he took it to another level. But Al Tenney was amazing. I got a chance to play with him like near the end of his life, and he could barely walk. But man, when he got to that piano, he was it was like a storm. You know, just Al Tenney. Look him up. You know,
Actually, I will.
Yeah,
I'm curious because I don't know the name.
yeah. Well, I know. One thing you talked about the earlier era, like a lot of my favorite musicians, like Elvin Jones, they kind of were schooled like through the military. You know, I guess they were fortunate to, you know, I don't know, whatever programs they had in Detroit or whatever. They got their high school learning and went to the military, and that school is pretty demanding. You know, as far as you know, what your skills you have to. First of all, you have to get in. You know. You have to get in, and the audition process is pretty intense, I guess. You know, you have to really be qualified. And I read about Elvin Jones, who's one of my favorite drummers. That's why I'm talking about him. He said every time he had a break, he'd be over in the corner practicing and just you know, just trying to take it to another level. So you know, the guys got their time in. You know, Philly Joe Jones.
Definitely.
Sure.
Speaking of schooling, it's my understanding that you went to school with some pretty well-known jazz musicians.
Yeah,
and, can you talk about, this was in New Orleans, right?
No, this was actually in Baton Rouge.
In Baton Rouge. Okay, can you share an experience that you had there that really was like a pivotal experience for your your journey as a musician?
Yep, well, it's funny, there's a musician by the name of Jamil Sharif. If you look at the Ray Charles movie credits, I think he was the music supervisor or something like that. We were both in the laundry room doing our laundry, and I was practicing my rudiments on my book, and he was practicing his trumpet. And he was like, "Excuse me, bro, I'm trying to practice." He was a New Orleans guy, and he was very skinny also. So I'm like, "Are you serious? I'm practicing too." So I was here first. But we just kind of like compromised, and we started, you know, playing something together. And then we went to the band room, and I wasn't a music major, but I met Alvin Baptiste, who was ended up being my jazz band teacher, and just a really amazing person and musician, classical and jazz. He taught Branford, and just I don't know, he's like an iconic Louisiana musician. And so, you know, there's Alvin Baptiste, Jamil Sharif, Wes Anderson, who played with Wynton Marsalis for many years, since 1986. He was actually my roommate for a couple of years, and, you know, we're still friends to this day. Haven't talked to him lately. He's had some medical issues. Reginald Veal was another, you know, great player that I got to play with on a regular basis. We had a jam session at Wes and I had an apartment, and below there was a club called Ron and Earl's, and every Wednesday and Thursday we hosted a jam session.
Wow.
Yeah,
That must
so
have
it
been
was
fun.
pretty good. Yeah,
Wow.
pretty fun. Yep.
Well, I think you guys must enjoy it. You know, before we actually started taping, I got to listen to you for about 20 minutes.
Okay.
Just playing with each other.
Yeah.
You know, just standing around. Like, hey, okay, this is what we do. This is what we do. And it was really fun to listen to.
Oh, thanks.
And I really appreciate you coming on.
Glad to
Is
be here.
anything you'd like to say to the audience, where you're working around town, where they might be able to see you play?
Let me see. Friday I am playing with the Jimmy Highsmith Experience, which is a smooth jazz type of music. We're playing at a church on Park Avenue. I'm ashamed to say I don't remember the name of the church, but they kind of have jazz like every few weeks or so. I can find out.
Oh, so they're on Brunswick, right?
Is it Brunswick?
Brunswick and Park Avenue. I know what you're
Okay.
talking about.
Yeah. Yep. And then Saturday, I've been playing at the Little Theater with the Andy Wells Band. which is kind of a, how would I describe her music? It has some jazz nuances to it, some like kind of unique rock approaches, and you know, just bunch of good people. You know, just a lot of original music, and she's a great singer and piano player as well. And I'd have to like look at my schedule, you know, to tell you like the rest.
Well, again, I just want to let folks know that you're around town.
Okay.
Well, look, thank you very much
All right.
for coming in. I
Yep.
appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.